Jean-François, shall we talk about the strike and the lack of progress? I know Bernard Drinville, our education minister, says, oh, we're making progress, we're making progress. So first, I want to ask what progress? First, and then secondly, I want to say, will the polls and Legault tanking, being the least popular now in all of Canada, will that sort of facilitate that progress? Will it speed things up, do you think?
Well, first, Natasha, I will say that I'm more encouraged by the signals that we get in the last few days than I was at any time in the last year when there was really nothing happening except deciding when the strikes would start. So the teachers from the FIA had an option, had enough on the table to discuss the possibility of suspending the strike, decided not to. But this, in and of itself, is a significant development. They made a counteroffer that is not seen as sufficient by the government, but there's movement as well. And the president of that union, that particular union, said, "Well, we should stop talking, to the media and concentrate on negotiating at the table." So we seem to be two or three major compromises away from an agreement at this table. It could happen any day now, maybe before the end of the week. There are a couple of issues we don't quite understand why it's such a difficult a threshold to pass. The one is trying to allocate the positions in June instead of August. But both the union and leaders of three associations of directors have said that this is not possible. That there's one of the reasons is that the financing from the Department of Education comes too late to be able to assign all the teachers in June. So that's the department's fault. Mm-hmm. And also, even if we could lessen the number of open spaces, there are still a number of things that we do not control. Teachers getting sick, teachers having happy news about being in child and other things that we can't do this. So I think the reasonable path here is to decide to have an table outside of the negotiating table. If we have a commitment from the union to try and narrow the gap and find ways with the directors to narrow the gap, but that should not hold up the rest of the negotiation. And the second thing, very briefly, is that the teachers asked the ability to work from home during days of training and to leave the school to do corrections at home if they don't live too far from the school. And for now, the government says no, but probably that they're holding this concession for having something in return. So I would say, unless they're all pig-headed, which they don't seem to be in the last few days, we're pretty close to some kind of agreement.
Oh, God, I hope you're right. I mean, you're a parent. I'm a parent. This has not been fun. And I still 100% side with the teachers. I want to circle back to Legault here because I think his impassioned plea for the children, this whole thing that he did on Friday, I think that only hurt him further. But he's already tanking in the polls. Do you think once this strike is resolved, perhaps his popularity will have an uptick?
I think that it's already baked in. I think that the fact that he's losing popularity is pushing him to hope for an agreement more than if he were really very popular. Very popular would mean he could stomach a special legislation to return to work. Now he doesn't have the political capital to do this, which is a good thing for a negotiated settlement. Yeah. But he would need a string of good news in the next 2 years to bounce back.
Yeah, he hasn't had much of that, has he? He's had nothing but bad news lately, Jean-François. I asked the question earlier, like, is the romance over? Is this it? Are we in the death spiral of the CAQ?
Well, maybe not a death spiral, but the honeymoon is over. Yeah. Now, if this couple between the CAQ and public opinion has to survive its first major fight, we need a good therapy session somewhere.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so you also brought up Poilievre's documentary. I assume you're referring here to his 15-minute video he put out on the housing crisis over the weekend. It's got over 2 million views, and people are responding to this really well, unlike Trudeau's response.
Mm. Absolutely. I think, the whatever you think about Poilievre or Trudeau, there's no debating that we're in a housing crisis of historical proportion. And the fact that Poilievre is himself narrating in French and in English in a very, I would say, teacher-like demeanor is part of the normalization and professionalization of the persona of Poilievre. And although we can disagree with some of the arguments he's bringing forward, he's not throwing insults like he does sometimes during a press conference.
Yeah, it's a distinctly different tone, isn't it? And it's pretty effective. I hate to say it.
Oh, I mean, the comparison between the cost of the house in Niagara, Ontario, and Niagara, New York, that's a killer argument. I mean, it's more than double in the Ontario side. And I'm looking forward to the fact-checking piece that will explain why it's normal, because I don't think this can be achieved. But, it's part of Poilievre now, if we had an election today, he would be in very firm majority territory. That's the new reality. And the latest poll showed that although the Bloc Québécois is doing some gains in Quebec and is a first party, now the Conservatives just outpace, they're in the margin of error with the Liberals, which we haven't seen since, I'd say, Mulroney.
All right. Always good to get your perspective on things. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.